Alright, we'll start on a line that begins with Ukamesha Yisboyer. And he pointed out, can't say he explained, he pointed out that the union of Soivev is above completely that which it encompasses. And it encompasses all in total equality, without distinguishing of different qualities and different levels and so forth, because it's completely in a different realm above the whole thing. I said the line begins with Kmei Hizboyer, and then there is a parenthesis there. This is a parenthesis between parentheses. This we started, but I don't think we did it justice. Behishtalshelus, you have that behishtalshelus? The high hishtalshelus?
Sorry, but I had a question that I asked. I was just wondering if I could ask it now or...
You could, but let me just see.
Yeah.
The high hishtalshelus, we have that?
It's like 9 from the bottom.
Well, you counted it, that's it, yeah.
The end of the parenthesis, right?
The beginning of parenthesis. The high hishtalshelus.
Could I ask on last week's show?
Yeah, just a minute. Let me just kind of establish a point.
Basis.
We are in the middle of the elaboration of the principle. The Rebbe begins with the parentheses, "Ve'ikar b'chinas haseibif." We spent quite some time on these three words, which begin with the word "ve'ikar." The word "ikar" means the core, the principle. In other words, it's not enough to talk about Soivev and its functional level. But Soivev is not in essence, a functional element. There's an essence to Soivev. In other words, Soivev has a reality even if there is nothing to be Mesavev, if there's nothing to encompass. This is what the Rebbe is saying. Ika begins as Soivev. The real principle is Soivev. Now, this inyan, that there is a Bechinas HaSoivev, without there being a need for Soivev. HaSoivev exists on a principle level, rather than on a function level. Admittedly, is quite a difficult concept, but since we are presented with this concept, it is incumbent upon us to focus in and try to recognize it within ourselves, in our own seichel. The whole phenomenon, whole statement, pardon me, that there is such a thing as ikor b'chinas haseibif, a need of seibif that is not defined by functionality, but something that is essential. It's incumbent upon us to focus in and try to understand this inyan. In essence, what this is saying is that yes, indeed, there is, it's still coming to Hishtalshelus, there is a world. And the world, by definition, requires support. It cannot stand on its own. But we, however, have to understand that the whole phenomenon, that there is a world that requires support, is not an accidental, is not a result of a circumstance. Rather, this is rooted in the very truth itself. At this moment, you think about it the whole time, occurred to me a very clear way to present this. It's phenomenal. An animal is dropped, is born. Within seconds after it's dropped, he's some jumping around. He runs. It's an amazing thing. Doesn't take time to develop, to grow. Poof, takes right off. Lahavdil is a human being. When he is born, he's totally incapacitated. Forget about jumping. He can't even turn over. What does this tell us? What does this stand for? And what's behind it? Now that we pointed this out, I'd like we should think into it. Figure out, make a bracha, then I will have that, then I make a bracha. An animal exists at one single level. He runs, and that's it. That's exactly what he's doing. There is not a hidden, or a subtle intent in this running. Sometimes going to the park, we go to the park sometimes, and as we come to the park, people come with their dogs. The dogs come initially on the leash. Then the leash is released. The instant the leash is released, the dog is at full gallop. And where is he running? Absolutely nowhere. Goes in big circles into this field and so, but runs. This is an animal. An animal exists at this functional level. It's able to walk, so it walks. Able to run, and so it runs. A dog barks. Can you explain why it barks? It just barks. It's able to bark, so it barks. A human being is a completely different entity, different creation. This is why a human being is born an infant. This infancy as he develops from infancy into adulthood, he went through the entire process, recognizing what it means to be an adult in real sense. And why be an adult? What it entails. The big difference between childhood and adulthood. There are many mishalim that we already have used for this. Let me just try to curtail this a little bit. This Indian, that a human being grows from childhood into adulthood through a long process, is this a just functional process, or is there a reality behind it? In other words, is a human being conceived as an adult, but he starts off as a child, so it takes time for him to reach adulthood? Or is being a child also one of his purposes? This is the point. It is absolutely intended, it's absolutely the definition of a human being is that he grew from infancy into adulthood, and he took along all these experiences as he went through them. Because at the very conceptualization of a human being, the Creator himself conceptualizes a human being as an entity that recognizes what he stands for. It's not just on a functional level. He recognizes his responsibilities, recognizes what the world is about. Not only recognizes it, but he values it. He recognizes that this is his function, this is his mission in the world. So that all his, so to speak, frailties and weaknesses and shortcomings are part of his design. So that he can always recognize, reminisce, so to speak, and remember what he went through to get where he is. And this remembering what he went through to get to where he is not just a question of accomplishment and so forth. It is the recognition of the difference between the beginning, the original concept. As it says, a child is very selfish. Naturally, a child is very selfish and competitive. If a friend gets a toy and he doesn't have it, he begins to cry. Going through this process and he reaches full adulthood, he has a completely different view of the world and of life. And he would rather associate, listen to this, rather associate to another adult who maybe has more understanding than himself. Because the associations are have a purpose, have a meaning. It is not just to prove myself against somebody else. This is the pshat that the very concept of the Hishtalshelus means the chaining down of worlds. It develops slowly, piecemeal. If it develops piecemeal, that means that it's a person in a state of incompleteness, something missing. This state of incompleteness is part of its design. It is conceptualized at the very top, at the very highest level of completeness, of totality, of perfection, within the Creator himself. When the Creator conceptualizes a human being, he conceptualizes a human being exactly that way. But he should start from infancy, and then he should go into adulthood. So he'll be a real adult. He will have experienced the whole process, recognizing what he is about.
It's more than accomplishment. It's what? This more than a sense of accomplishment to this.
It's not accomplishment. It's a definition of what he is, what his purpose in he has to know. I mentioned the other day. I thought I would skip that. I mentioned the other day an interesting Indian. Today we have the ability of moving thousands of miles through the air, flight. When you take a train or a bus across the country, or you fly across country, there's a very big difference. When you fly, you have the beginning point and the end point. That's all it is. You have not crossed, you have not traversed any real terrain. You don't recognize the greatness of the country that you're covering. It doesn't exist. The place was the starting place and the end place. That's what exists.
You can see the greatness of the sky and the clouds.
The sky is not part of the ground, of the land. The sky you can see. It does not increase. It does not teach you anything by traveling. When you travel on Earth, then you recognize what you're covering, and it's a different experience. You travel from place to place, and you travel on the ground. You actually know what you covered, what you passed, and the proximity from this place to this place. This is just a simple example. This is really part of a human experience. The growth pattern of a human being is that he includes the entire process. This is what makes him into an adult. Now let's look inside.
How does this tie back to what?
Okay, this is exactly what I came back. The parenthesis that begins with his starts, or that begins with his commission is boyer. The commission is boyer. The parenthesis. We just finished saying that the soy wave, the real soy wave is before it becomes functional, the way it is included in the source, in the etzem. And there it is in soy wave, it embraces everything equally. That the Rebbe says a further statement, v'ha'hishtalshelus gufo, the hishtalshelus itself, which means the actual worlds and the chaining down of the worlds. You say, oh, there is a whole bunch of different worlds. They're all different from other. The Hishtal and the difference is on the developmental level. So it says no. The Hishtalshelus itself, k'moi shehein klulim b'yetzeinu yizborich. At the level and in the manner that these worlds are klulim, are included b'yetzeinu yizborich, in Hashem's will. This is an important principle for us to understand. There is Hishtalshelus. Let me go to the motion of the human being. A human being grows from infancy into adulthood. So you would think that the growth pattern is insignificant. The main thing is what he reaches. So we say no. The growth pattern itself is part of the design of the human being. This is what he says over here. The Hishtalshelus itself, as the Hishtalshelus is actually identified in the Rotzen HaBeiri. The Rotzen HaBeiri is not only that there should be a beginning and an end, Atzilus and Asiyah. The Rotzen HaBeiri is that there should be Atzilus, and Atzilus itself, there are 10 spheres, and then there should be Bria, and there should be Yitzir, and there should be Asiyah. The whole Seder. Including B'tzein, as they are included, as they are conceptualized in Hashem's will. They are there too, behashvo, in total equality, which means that there is not one point that is more important than another. Everything is an equal contributor to the ultimate result. As we explained earlier, talking about Esesphiras Hagnuzis. Esesphiras Hagnuzis is precisely this thing. Esesphiras Hagnuzis means 10 spheres. 10 spheres means that there is a whole world structure, Chochmah, Bina, Das, and so forth. But they are Gnuzos. They are contained within the divine supreme reality. Who needs Esesphiras in the divine supreme reality? It is conceptualized in Hashem's will that there should be Esesphiras. And as we said, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, just the fact that there is 10 spheres, that tells you the depth and the greatness of the whole Seder Ishtalshelus, of the creation. You think a human being is able to walk because he has feet. A human being is able to walk because he has a neshama of the highest caliber. This is why he's able to walk, because he can perceive and see the reality way beyond his immediate location.
So you're saying that even on the level of walking, an animal walks because he could walk. He's only function. A human doesn't walk because he could function.
Exactly right. A human does not walk. A human goes. I always say there's a difference between walking and going. He's always going someplace. He's identifying what he is doing, and what he's passing, and where he's going. I mentioned the other day, when you woke up, when you get up in the morning and you look up in the sky, you see undefined depth, a distance. It's all real, and you cannot identify exactly what you see. That reality, that distance, this is what enables you to see the cup on the table.
That's what I want to ask about. Why does the cup on the table depend on seeing the Mursid?
Okay, all right, very good. Okay. No, I'm glad we asked. I thought that.
I see the sky, man.
Okay, okay. It's good. So it's always good. Like you said, we go through every bit of this. We have Chochmah and Bina. On a physical level, we have touch and sight. Now, if you think deeply into yourself and own experience, you say touch is a real thing. I have something in my hand. Sight is a distance. It's an imaginary thing. But what gives you the sense of reality? Sight or touch? If you know something by touch, It's a limited knowledge. If you know something by sight, it's real. And what is the difference? What is behind that experience? When you go and touch something, it exists only in its own limited capacity. There's something there and you touch it. It does not exist as part of the bigger world. It exists in its own containment. In sight, when you see something, you don't see the thing itself. You see the thing as part of the entire environment. As a matter of fact, it is the makif, the surrounding area, that enables you to see the particular object. Nothing exists in itself. When you see the cup, add the cup on the table and the cup and in the room. It's all part of the same identity. You can touch the cup by itself without there being anything else. Not in sight. Sight, you see everything within the makif that encompasses it, that enables it, that presents it. This is why sight is much more convincing, much more revealing than touch. Because sight reveals to you the entire reality of this thing. Not only that it exists, but where does it exist? How come it exists? What enables it to exist? This is Chokhmah and Bina. This is why Chokhmah is the basis of Bina. Because Chokhmah presents the Bina with the sense there's an infinite divine reality. And therefore when you go in and you start deciphering things, you are within a reality. I can go into Mashalim, but I don't think it's necessary, at least for this particular point.
But you said in the past that through seeing the sky, through seeing the horizon.
Yes. Are you disconnected? Okay, I'll dial him again. I don't know what happened. They disconnected.
Wow.
What?
So we're kind of saying like these obstacles in a person's life is also real.
Yep.
Very powerful stuff.
Okay, where am I supposed to go here?
Yep.
Oh. Not giving me the option. Oh.
Please enter your conference ID. Welcome to the... Thank you. You are now entering the conference room. To exit the conference room, press ***. For help, press *9. Participant number 2.
Okay, we're back on. I'm sorry, I have no idea why we just disconnected.
It's all right. I'm listening.
Okay, Baruch. Good morning.
Good morning, Rabbi PALTIEL.
Okay, so we are.
A second, but
Yeah.
I mean, you said that through the ability of seeing the horizon, that gives you either a deeper understanding of seeing the cup or seeing the cup.
To
Why
see the
does
cup.
why is there a kasha between the two?
The question is because because sight is different than touch. Touch is the experience of touch. Sight has to be convincing that it's real. Otherwise, it's imaginary. When you see it within an environment, you see how the environment provides for it. That is when it becomes real to you. So, having seen the far horizon, you know that that sight is real. I saw all 1,000 miles away. Therefore, when I see this, it's also real. We don't realize how true this experience is. Sight does not come piecemeal. It comes in totality. In part of everything that you see is part of the big reality.
And how does this connect back? This was used as a mushal to Iker, to Iker HaSeviv.
Oh, okay. Back to Iker HaSeviv. This inyan, that you're seeing things not because you see them per se, but you see them as part of the bigger reality. This is what Iker. This is what gives them a core, a basis, a reality. And why? Where does that come from? How come there is such a reality? This is the point. The reason such a reality is due to the fact that this reality, this little table over here, is provided for and conceived in the godly purpose of creation.
Well, here we speak about before creation, pre-Tzimtzum. Why, the question was, if before Tzimtzum, what is there a need for Seviv? And Shittas HaTzos, why does he have all this?
That's right. Let's go back to creation for a moment. Like we said before, an infant is born an infant. Adulthood, the ultimate adulthood, is also included in the initial concept of the infant. Why? Because that is what the Creator creates. But he starts from infancy. Why is that from infancy? Because he wants to give a real entity. A real entity is one who knows himself, who knows how he came, how did he come to this point, what he stands for. If he were to be created directly at adulthood, this would be like an animal. This is the meaning that the whole process from adulthood, from infancy to adulthood, is included in the concept of the creation itself. It's not an accident that a human child is born an infant. Because this is the only way to create a full-fledged human being. To a human being, knowledge is not just knowing the end result, but knowing the whole process. What is the end result based on, and how did I get there? You're sitting right here in this basement, and you were completely aware that this is a basement. And there are books around, and tables around, there's doors over there, doors over there, aware of the whole thing. Let's say if you're brought into this blindfolded. and you would be sitting down exactly at this place. Now your blindfold is removed, and you're looking at the same thing on this table with this sefer. Would you be seeing exactly the same way as you see it now? Would it be the same experience? When you're sitting here now, you're looking at the sefer, but the whole environment is part what enables you to look in the sefer. That's what a human being is. The reason they're able to concentrate on the sefer is not because the sefer, because the whole environment is supportive of this concentration, of this focus. This is what the Rebbe says. Ikar, the sefer is included originally in the original source, and the Rebbe says further. This is the biggest thing. Hishtalshelus gufa. I'm reading in the parentheses. This is really revolutionary. Hishtalshelus gufa. The hishtalshelus itself, the changing of worlds. Hishtalshelus means stepping down, development from step to step. You think it developed from step to step because each step brings the next step. So says no. The hishtalshelus itself K'moi shehein kluli b'tzeini yizborich. And the state, as the hishtalshelus is included b'tzeini yizborich in Hashem's will. Who says they're included in Hashem's will? They develop accidentally because they comes from infancy, and an infant becomes a child. How are they included b'tzeini yizborich? So the Rebbe says, no, hishtalshelus gufa is included b'tzeini yizborich.